Welcome to the 14th episode of the GameFor Podcast. In this episode, we'll be discussing bringing something extra to your tabletop games. I think initially in the notes we talked about some sort of X factor.
Yes.
It's actually external stuff. It's not like we're not just bringing some external stimulus to your tabletop games to make them more interesting or whatever. My name is Adam.
I'm Matt.
And we are part of the crew at Milk Can, and we make an app called GameFor. I'm wearing my GameFor sweatshirt right now. And GameFor is an app for connecting tabletop gamers. It is designed both for iOS and Android. It's also got a web component you can use as well if you don't have one of those smartphones or you're someplace where you don't get any 4G or whatever. And it's designed to connect tabletop gamers to events, stores, groups and clubs, other gamers, conventions, all in their local area.
And all for free.
And it's for free, absolutely, yeah. We'll mention where you can find it at the end of the show, but I'll give you a hint. If you type GameFor into Google, you'll probably figure it out. GameFor is game and then F-O-R, not the number. So what have we been doing? What have you been doing, I guess, is important.
So I'm finally getting back into 3D printing.
Okay. You've taken a bit of a hiatus from the 3D printing?
Yeah, I had a lot of little projects kind of going on at the same time that all kind of like messed up at the same time.
Gaming projects?
Printing projects.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Some for gaming, some for just building stuff so I could print more stuff a little better. And they all kind of broke at the same time and frustrated me, so I was like, I just didn't need that in my life at that time.
Yeah, that can be kind of a problem when the hobby frustrates you for some reason. Then it becomes difficult to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I just kind of stared at the broken print sitting on my printer for.
Well, is that thing where it
weeks.
was shifting?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would like print for a while, and then all of a sudden everything would slide like one direction.
Yeah, it was like all of a sudden it was just like, we're just gonna shift and.
And you finally figured out what the problem was?
I think so.
Was there a mouse?
No.
No. Okay, then that's all I got. I
think it's belt tweaking and
the belts.
And yeah, I had like 20 or 30 items suggested to me on Facebook.
That
it was a long list of things.
Right. Yeah.
They're like, oh, you could try this.
You could try this. And I've said it before. Like 3D printing becomes another hobby. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to buy this thing and print out a bunch of cool stuff. It's
right.
It's kind of.
I mean, it's getting closer to that, but it's still.
Is, yes.
It's. I always compare it to the personal computer.
We're now when they first came out.
Yeah, we're now in the kind of the kit building phase where you can the geeks go to the hobby store and buy their kit and put it together, and then they figure out how to make it work, and then someday they can. Do spreadsheets and all that fun stuff.
And then someday we'll be to the buying a laptop from Walmart phase where you just go and buy it, open it up, and start doing stuff with it.
Yeah, or like throwaway printers that print one item and then you throw them away.
That seems like a bad idea. I don't know. It does. Yeah, no, I can understand that. But
yeah, so that's so I'm going to be back to more dungeon tiles and all that stuff finally. So,
yeah.
So, how about you?
Still basically cleaning and organizing my basement, and again with the sad face emoji. That's still in progress.
Okay.
And it is what it is. I do really want to be able to get back into the hobby, but I do kind of have to do that whole sort of carrot and stick sort of situation. Yes. If I just decide to just start hobbying again, then cleaning is going to stop, and so I don't want to do that.
One day you would just have miniatures collapse on you, and
right, yeah,
you'd be in the
my wife wouldn't be able to find me, because I'd be under a pile of stuff or something. Yeah, that's no good. Yep. But while I'm doing that, I am also discovering all kinds of interesting things. It's like Indiana Jones in the temple of my basement or whatever. And so, I'm finding stuff that I purchased on eBay, like I find like some sort of one-off miniature that was already pre-painted and, or pro-painted. I just made air quotes there for those of you who are listening. And I'm like, okay, well, that paint's got to come off. And so I have been taking some of the models that I've been finding here and there as I've been cleaning. And I'm like, I was going to strip this, and I can do that now. And it's not like I have to pay attention. Like when you're building and painting, you're all completely focused. But when you're stripping, the paint off of models, you throw them into a vat with other models potentially, and you let it sit for a couple of days, and then you get out with a screwdriver, or not a screwdriver, a toothbrush and a toothpick, and you go to town, and then hopefully it's all good. So yeah, that's about the only hobby progress that I've been having lately, which has been the opposite of a hoot. So
you're actually getting more unpainted minis.
Well, see, that's the thing is that, and I've had people ask me about it. Like I when I first started the project, I don't know, a couple weeks back or whatever, I posted a photo of like a garbage bag or a couple garbage bags and saying, okay, well, I've started cleaning. I've started the thing that's what I'm going to do. And then people on Instagram are like, well, what'd you throw away? Why are you throwing away miniatures? I'm like, I didn't throw away. I mean, okay, technically I did throw away some miniatures, but they were those pre-painted BattleTech WizKids clicks.
Oh, okay.
I think it was called Mech War Dark Age or Dark Age Mech War or something like that. And they weren't even the mechs. They were like the support vehicles and like the little tiny troops on the bases and stuff like that. And they've been just sitting in a box for a long time. And I was like always going to be like, oh, I'm going to use these for something, or I'll repaint a couple of them or do something cool with them, or use them as a junkyard, of like broken robots. And I have used some of the robots over the years for certain things, and all that's left is the scrapple basically in the bottom. And I'm just like, ugh, so I just threw it away. But yeah, it's not that the place is full of miniatures. I think the place is about 80% cardboard, and that's part of the problem right there. So that's what I'm trying to fix. Yeah, if I had a machine that could turn cardboard into, I'd even take silver.
Silver?
Yeah, I mean, gold would be spectacular, don't get me wrong, but if I could turn cardboard into even tiny pieces of silver, I would be rich AF, as the kids say, I think.
I'm gonna write that down for us to build that machine.
Yeah, no, I think you should definitely see if you can 3D print something on it. That'd be great. Again, we've not got a question.
Oh, sad.
I know. Well, that's we've answered all the questions. It's
everybody is completely content.
No one has any questions.
Wow, we're good.
But if you do, let's say, if you've got a question and you'd like us to talk about it or something like that, we will talk about it potentially right here on the very podcast to which you listen. And if you do, we'll send you a free limited edition podcast shirt saying that Matt and Adam, I listened to Matt and Adam on the podcast, and all I got was this lousy shirt.
Yeah, even Adam and I do not have this shirt.
I don't, no.
Because we haven't submitted our own questions.
That's a good point. I should probably do that. So yeah, that's that. If you want to send a question, you could post it in the comments on YouTube. You could Twitter it at us, Facebook, technically.
Yep. You can snail mail it.
I don't know what our address. They don't know what our address is. I mean,
I'm sure they could. Somebody's gonna be crafty and find it. I bet.
Potentially, yes. But maybe the best way to do it would be to send it to the email address, which is podcast@iamgamefor.com. It's IAMGAMEFOR.com. And if we read your question on the air, air is it not really, because it's it's a podcast. But if we read it on the show, then we will send you a free T-shirt. So yes, there are multiples in the wild as we speak. I actually just got a shipment thing, like one of the most recent ones. Just recently got a shipment, so it's on its way. So the topic this week, like I said at the beginning of the show, is talking about kind of having that little extra in your tabletop games. And I think that what we were talking about when we were first discussing this concept is, because tabletop games are very imagination based, you know what I mean? Specifically RPGs. Like RPGs, like when I first started playing D&D in the 5th grade, sometimes we had graph paper.
Right.
But we didn't use miniatures, we didn't have terrain, we didn't have dungeon tiles, anything like that. It was just straight up, okay, well then you turn left. And we didn't even have like a thing to draw on. Like it was all up in the
theater
DM's
of mind. Yeah,
theater of the mind.
It was pretty much like the original text Zork game, where you're like, oh crap, we turned left 3 times.
Sure. Yeah.
Where are we now?
Yeah. No, that's very true. That's a good point. So, but because people do enjoy and I think maybe engage a bit more with something like a tabletop game when there's a little bit more added to it, we wanted to kind of go over and maybe give you folks some ideas on what you could do to kind of engage your players or yourself even a little bit more in the different types of genres of games and stuff.
So that your game event is the talk of the Hobby Town.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about Hobby Town. They don't really do much in the way of Well, they do painting stuff, but they don't do games. I don't see games at my local Hobby Town. I suppose it depends because they're all a bit different.
Yeah, they're all different.
Yeah, that's a good point. So, probably one of the best ones, I think, is probably RPGs. Like what kind of stuff you can do, in RPGs to really kind of make it a little bit more special or whatever.
Yeah, and I've always heard mood music or sound effects. I know that Alexa actually has some of that stuff. If you have a Alexa or Google or any of those home devices,
really,
you can actually say, Alexa, play dungeon sound effects.
No kidding.
And it will kind of play some stuff that some people have.
I have not heard about that.
Yeah, you have to. I believe it's like a separate install app, but it's free. And
yeah, I've seen plenty of especially at big conventions like Gen Con and stuff like that. I have seen companies that are selling mood music,
right? Like
things
CDs.
Like that. But I've got to assume that these days it's probably a little bit more of a. I could even see it being a YouTube thing where you go onto YouTube and there's playlists of mood music for whatever type mood it is. Maybe you're in a sci-fi game, maybe you're in fantasy. Yeah,
that'd be nice.
Yeah, no, and I think that can really help.
Mood lighting, that was another one we had, and I've seen some really cool stuff with this, ones where they're basically all sitting nearly in the dark, which you have to remember your audience, like we always say.
Sure.
If someone has poor eyesight or any trouble, be mindful of that.
Yeah.
But then they basically are shining a light, so they have the whole map of the dungeon mapped out, but they are only basically lighting up the area they're in.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it's you've got maybe a big dungeon, maybe it's dungeon tiles that have been 3D printed or whatever, or maybe it's just a map or something like that. But you're kind of really only focusing the light
so it
in
gets
the area
almost like a natural fog of war.
Yeah, like in video games to some degree. Yep. No, that's a cool idea. I hadn't thought of
that. Then they'll do sometimes the scary, the underlit lighting on the DM.
Right, when you take the flashlight and put it underneath.
Right,
your face
when you're telling campfire stories, but they'll do that behind the DM screen.
Oh, that'd be kind of cool. Yeah, having some sort of light behind it. I mean, and the DM's got to be able to read anyway.
Right.
So yeah, it just kind of works out. I could see that. That's a cool idea.
Or candles or torches.
Or even those electric ones.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't think
you could use the regular ones too. That's going to add a smell.
Yeah.
Which could be good. I mean, because it's going to smell like candles.
Right. Well, I've been to torches. You probably don't want real torches.
Oh, in the house, no. Probably that's true. I've seen those weird electric ones where there's a little fan inside and it blows a weird piece of cloth.
Yeah, like Spencer's Gifts and stuff. Used to
right, and it looks like it, and then there's a light underneath it, and it's an orange piece of cloth that makes it kind of look like I've seen that. Those are cool. I've actually always kind of wanted one of those. I am slightly fascinated by the fake candles. There are some that are just that looks totally fake, but there are some that look really good.
Oh yeah, I showed you that one that some of the 3D buildings that I've got for I did a Kickstarter for printing. They actually have that spot for the light to go into for the fire and then the blinking stuff, a video of it. I mean, it looks pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I've seen those. They're just like a little tea light. Kind of thing. But there are also candles that I've seen before, where there's a shape of a...
Oh, yeah, right.
And then there's lights that shine up underneath it, and then they move around a little bit, kind of, and it's from a distance, it looks just like a flame, but it only looks like a flame from one angle, because that flame is actually two-dimensional.
Oh, okay.
So, it's like a silhouette of a flame, and the lights are playing on it, and if you look at it from the side, you don't notice it as much. But if it's a pillar candle, then...
And I bet after the holidays, those are probably going to go on sale.
Oh, good point. Yeah, that's also another good tip. Wait till after the holiday. If you're looking for if you really want to have a lot of skulls and creepy whatnot and all that kind of stuff, just day after Halloween,
or even the day of. Some of those the pop up Halloween stores.
Oh yeah,
they're trying to get rid of everything they can on Halloween.
Yeah. No, we I've bought several different little skulls and things like that, either Target or Walgreens, a day or two after, and you get them for super cheap, at least 50% off, and then you can use them for all kinds of stuff. Yeah, so that's kind of cool, lighting and that kind of stuff.
Next on our list is tangible items.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So these are physical items. Beetle and Grimm, that was one of the ones that kind of comes to mind that are kind of masters of this, I would say.
So they're a company that makes... They've got a license, right? With
they do an official license. So they've got we just finished the Dragon Heist scenario. So dragons are also the coin of Waterdeep. So they actually had basically like bronze coins that
Right.
were, that are officially licensed, looked like them. And I picked those up for each of my players
at
Game Hall Con when
Madison,
they were there. Yep.
Yeah, so Beetle and Grimm and other companies do this as well, but they will produce like maps and notes and clues,
brooches,
and like all kind. Yeah, so like, you're chasing after this guy, and then he runs down this alleyway, and you search the alleyway, and you find the Night Watch badge underneath a garbage can, and it's got something etched on it. It's like whatever, and it's a clue. And rather than you as the DM just being like, "Oh, okay, well this is what it looks like," or whatever, you can actually pull out the actual badge and hand it. And people can look at it and maybe even get ideas and clues and ideas off of it that way.
Right, and you can definitely create your own too.
Sure,
like the whole like a lighter or match on the edge of paper.
You could either use a computer to do like faux calligraphy or whatever,
or do
maybe
foam to do like stone tablets or
There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do if you want to take the time, and if you want to buy stuff, there's also plenty of companies that'll do that too. I would honestly look.
Etsy probably has
I was just
going
to say Etsy. Yeah, I bet you Etsy's probably got a bunch of that kind of stuff out there.
And Pinterest has a lot of probably ideas for you to look at.
Yeah. Whereas Etsy's got the stuff that's probably ready to actually build. But it's a cool little extra thing to have at the table when you've got these kind of tangible items, especially if there's like kind of clues and stuff like that.
Right.
Where it's like, here's this map, but if you turn it this way, you can see something else, or I don't know.
Yeah, I had one that was it was like a stone. And you had to piece the stone tablets together, and then they also had like other pieces to fit over it, and then that revealed the message.
Almost like a code cipher thing.
Right. But I had just printed out the paper, and they were using the paper. But thinking about it more, that would have been kind of cool to have it a little bit more physical. So
could 3D print something.
Ooh.
Oh. See, that's the business right there. Is you make STL files to sell to people that they can 3D print stuff that they can then use in their campaigns. Yeah. That's a freebie idea out there for you folks if you're interested in cranking that stuff out. There you go. That's from your old Uncle Adam. And then I suppose, with RPGs, even though it is, we were talking before, theater of the mind, there are plenty of people who do enjoy having miniatures and tiles and all that. Yeah, we've talked about
it. I love doing that. It's cool. Yeah, buildings, tiles. There's so many modules and stuff like that to put in miniatures. Lots of lines from miniatures, and now they're even coming pre-painted.
What's his name there? WizKids is now cranking out pre-painted dungeon tiles that are inexpensive.
I think they're like the premieres or something is what they're calling them, of the
Warlock.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
but
the Warlock tiles.
They're basically the pre-paint. They're pre-painted of the normal ones. So
yeah, and that's cool. But then there's also
all in the hidden boxes.
Yeah, but I was thinking of what the heck? Oh, Mantic.
Oh,
they make the terrain, or they make the stuff, the furniture that you have in you got these dungeon tiles, but now you're like, well, what about where are the bookshelves for the wizards' books?
The terrain crates, right?
Yeah, terrain crates, I believe. Yes, is that, and they make a whole line of different plastic stuff for fantasy and some for sci-fi too, but mostly fantasy, and it's. Armor racks and weapons chests and all kinds of junk like that. And beds.
Tables. It worked really well for a couple of skirmishes that my guys just went through.
Yeah.
They came in and they were supposed to be, there's napping people coming, and they were able to figure out their strategy a little bit better because they were able to kind of see what furniture was going to be in the way and all that fun stuff. Yeah, no.
And some people say, I think, that going that direction can, in some situations, turn an RPG more into almost like a miniatures game, and some people don't like that, but some people do, and it's totally up to the group.
Right.
And it's cool now that you could have that choice. Like when I first started playing D&D back in the 5th grade, there was no all of that stuff would have had to have been created by us. You know what I mean? Like there's no, and now you can. You can buy some of that stuff. You can still create it if you want to. You can 3D print it, whatever. But it's just nice to be able to have access to it.
Yeah. Another thought was costumes. So.
Yeah, if that's what the people want. I don't know that I would be. I'm not a big costume fan.
I'm
myself,
not, but I could see some people coming as their, character, especially for towards the end of a campaign. They've all kind of been that one, or maybe to introduce their character, so you kind of get a picture.
Yeah, I could see that. So I would just be a guy with a fez, because that's the only costume I have. Really.
Yeah, fezzes are cool.
It's true. Let's see. So, what about board games? Board games are much less theater of the mind, obviously.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
Although some of the abstract ones, but then the abstract ones, you're probably not. It's going to be a little bit harder to do a theme.
Right, just due to the fact that it's abstract. That's true. Like, there's not a big theme to a lot of, like, if you're playing Go, I don't know that there's a lot of,
Yeah, I don't know what you would use for music for that.
Yeah. But yeah, music is something still that I think can also work. Not too loud, obviously. Again, we're in this situation, we're basically talking about background style music. But background style music, I think, can also work very well in board gaming if it's attached to, again, something close to the theme.
Right.
If it's like crazy, like Skrillex techno, and you're playing Agricola, that's probably not going to jive.
Probably not.
But some sort of like medievally kind of instrumental, a lot of flute,
folk,
it's like kind of folkish sort of. Yeah, I could see something like that working quite well. What about mood lighting?
The right thing, I could see. Like if you're playing maybe like a futuristic game. Aliens from Outer Space, where you're basically trying either to capture the humans and eat them as aliens, or you're trying to escape. Having some like those like LEDs.
Oh sure, go to like a red alert or something.
Or
that
green
could be
or something.
That could be fun in certain situations. Like in those types of games where there's like a traitor, kind of like Betrayal at House on the Hill, but like a more of a sci-fi style version of it. I swear there's a game out there that's like that. That's got like a traitor kind of. I know what the heck's Battlestar Galactica, that's got traitors in it. So there are some sci-fi games that have traitors in them, and when the traitor is now finally revealed and the kind of the game's gone to the next level or whatever, that'd be the time to turn on the red lights, or something like
dun,
that.
Dun dun dun.
Sure, you could do that. I can see that. I think that the worry about that is that because in board gaming there is a lot of reading specifically off of the board, which in some situations is a bit further away from you, and if you get old, which some people do get older. Yeah, I know, it's weird. I've been trying to stop it for a while, but it's not working out. And so then it becomes harder to read like the board at a distance in the dark, I think. Though, I mean, in general, I prefer mood lighting. Like, I'm not a big fan of above just overhead lights.
No. I have to sit in a dark office.
I do.
I don't have to.
Yeah, I can get you a lamp.
Yeah. I'm okay with it.
I just, as it turns out, my computer screen's lit up, so I'm like, well, I don't. Yeah. But even at home, like, we almost never use the overhead lights. We always have like
I turn the one right over
table lamps and stuff.
My
like
overhead.
that.
Yeah, I can't reflection.
Yeah. But so that type of mood lighting can work well in board gaming, I think.
But yeah, one of the big things that I see a lot of is kind of like, especially for Kickstarter, kind of does I think kind of started the trend is doing like the, rather than paper money or cardboard, getting the metallic coins,
like fancy game aids and stuff.
Yeah,
like that.
just something that has some weight to it, some a little bit more dimension to it. I know there's a game called it's the Century Games
Monopoly,
the Gollum edition.
What?
But anyway, it's got you collect jewels and you're powering your robots and all this stuff.
Okay.
But they have all the jewels are kind of neat, different plastic prisms, but they look kind of like almost
jewels.
like costume jewels.
Yeah.
And I know that my younger kids really enjoyed that to it. It kind of made them more interested in looking at it. It's kind of like Monopoly. Monopoly was cool because you got to be the dog or the battleship versus just being,
the hat,
the red piece.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, I think that there's something to be said for that too. Definitely, I think that there's something to be said, and I think we're seeing it more and more in board gaming, where board game prices are going up because the components are getting much fancier. So right off the gate, it's you've upgraded your, you know what I mean?
Right.
But I've also seen, and I think I mentioned this in a previous episode, when I was at Gen Con, Board Game Geek was selling token sets for popular games, but instead of the cardboard, they were made out of like nice plastic and they were full color and all this kind of crazy stuff. And there were people that were buying them because they want to upgrade and make the game seem fancier.
Yeah, Dice Tower Con, it might have been the same people. They had the booth that was all it was premium.
So yeah, that kind of stuff. I mean, it makes total sense in those situations. But like I said, you're even starting to just see it come straight from the factory,
right?
Where you're doing that. And the prices reflect that to some degree. But there's something to be said, like you said, about like if it was just like, oh, here's some paper money or even plastic money, but if it's like coins, I don't know why, but there's a company called, am I gonna remember it now? Am I gonna remember it? Campaign Coins, I think, that's been at Gen Con the last couple of years, and I was at some other convention recently they were at as well. And they just sell tons and tons of different types of like metal coins that are all like made up. Like they created them all. They're not, none of them are, and then you can use them in your RPG. You can use them as tokens in your board game. You can use them as whatever, and they're just selling them in packs of whatever. And it's just a smart idea. I think it's a cool thing for people who want to go that extra kind of level and just make the board game stuff sort of more interesting. The other thing that we're seeing in board games a lot these days is miniatures.
Oh, yeah, very true. Very true.
And so I think it's interesting, we're seeing that like, games like Scythe, games like Shadows of Brimstone, like all that. There's tons and tons of miniatures. And I personally think, because I am the way that I am, I think that if you really want to make that game go to the next level, Zombicide, whatever, you paint those miniatures.
Yeah, I originally was kind of on the that's whatever. I think they look fine. Until I was playing what's the Star Wars game?
Imperial Assault.
Imperial Assault, yes. And our Jason from GameFor was kind of running those for us, and that's when he started really getting into painting.
Yeah, and
started painting up all the miniatures, and then suddenly we only really wanted to play the scenarios that he had already painted.
Right,
because it really did.
It just adds so much, and I've been telling people this for years. And it's obviously, I'm normally talking about tabletop wargaming, miniatures and stuff like that, miniature wargaming. But when so many miniatures are ending up into, like if you've ever played Zombicide, it's cool. You got tons of zombies and you got the people and the survivors and all that stuff, and it's great. But if you've played Zombicide where like the whole set's painted, like all the zombies are painted and all the heroes are painted that you use and all that stuff, it really adds so much.
Yeah.
And maybe you can't paint, but I bet you know somebody who can, and maybe they need their lawn mowed, or they need their car fixed, or they just need money. Or want money, or whatever.
And if you don't know someone, your local game store, you could probably ask. I bet there's a few people there that would probably take it on. Or
sure. And my quick plug is that I've got a YouTube channel called Tabletop Minions. It's all about learning how to get into the hobby, and I do have a tendency to talk a little bit more about the hobby, the painting and the creative part, as opposed to the gaming, because I'm not a particularly competitive gamer. But those of you who are like, yeah, but I just don't know if I want to, think about it also as a completely kind of almost, it can be a very zen kind of stress relief kind of thing.
Well, and the thing that got me into doing this is it's also a way for you to enjoy the tabletop hobby.
Even when you're not playing.
When it's, 10, 11 o'clock at night, you don't want to jump on Discord, but you just kind of want to relax. Paint a few minis,
because it still keeps your mind in there. You know what I mean? Into that kind of
and you can kind of multitask. You can listen to the GameFor Podcast, for example.
Indeed, I hope you're doing it right now.
Or Tabletop Minions,
sure, or any kind of podcast
or
audiobook.
There might be other ones.
Yeah, I think there probably are. But yeah, those types of things I think in board gaming really do help. And like I said, so many board games these days come with miniatures. Now I don't know that I would necessarily paint every single last miniature for, let's say, Twilight Imperium.
Wow, yeah.
That's a lot of plastic. But
unless it's your favorite game.
Right.
I mean, I'm thinking about like that.
You'd have to really be careful, though, because like one of the reasons, like in a game like that, you have to be able to figure out the balance between
to determine the players,
to determine the players and the colors being different. So yeah, you'd have to probably plan ahead a little bit and not just paint all the spaceships gray, because spaceships have a tendency to be gray. You'd have to do something else to
make sure, that the bases are easy to see or something.
Yeah, something like that. That's definitely true.
But yeah, or you could also do like a custom design stuff. I'm thinking of that Settlers Catan game that we see at like Fire and Ice. We saw it again at
Different conventions,
and where it's got 3D mountains.
Yeah, instead of the normal cardboard tiles. Yeah,
it's a giant.
I think you can get all those like on Thingiverse if you're into 3D printing. But I also think you can buy 3D printed, or not 3D printed, but 3-dimensional settlers from someone. Right. Yeah, I don't know where.
If it's your favorite board game, you're bringing it all the time.
Yeah,
it's a way to kind of spice it back up a little bit.
No, that's very true. That's
show
very true.
Some love.
So for miniatures, wargaming, which is kind of my area.
We don't have anything to talk about.
Nope, nothing. Anyway, next thing. So for miniatures wargaming, though, it's my first question kind of basically ties in back to the thing I just got done saying. And are your miniatures painted? Because that can really help. Like if you've built a bunch of miniatures, but you've never painted them, it's just not the same. You know what I mean? I could say that that's my opinion, but I think it's a little bit more than that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people's opinions.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah. But then the next question, as far as like taking it to the next level, is, it's not just about the miniatures, it's also about the terrain and the mat or the board or whatever. Like, where are you with that? Is it just a bunch of... And admittedly, if you're just starting out, don't worry about that. Like if you've just started out, I don't expect no one expects you to have all this stuff or whatever.
Right.
But you will find as you work towards it that having like matching terrain, where these buildings are all kind of the same, or at least look like they should be in the same spot, and having like a nice, like, because there's a lot of gaming mats you can buy now, which are inexpensive, and they have like artwork like printed on them to make it look like a desert or make it look like a city street or whatever, and then you don't have to actually sculpt like an entire board. Although if you do, it looks amazingly awesome.
Yeah, and not just like what you might think of like the poster stuff. Now there's like the foam and stuff. So
yeah, it's like a big giant mouse pad, like a neoprene. I think that's what stuff's called. Yeah, and those are super cool.
And it keeps your pieces from sliding accidentally a lot better.
It's quieter when you roll dice on it. It's nice and bouncy. But yeah, that like looking towards that stuff can like. Sitting down and playing on an amazing looking board with painted miniatures is just alone elevates miniature wargaming to the next 5 levels. It's just really amazing. Like back I used to play a game, a World War II game called Flames of War, and it was a smaller scale game. It was like 15 millimeter instead of like the 28 to 30 millimeter. So people were tinier, buildings were tinier, all that kind of stuff. And like we would spend the first hour and a half just building our little European village, like figuring out where the roads should go and the bocage. Where's this farm field going to go? Where's the ruined church? Where's this? Where's that? We would set up all this stuff, me and the guy I would play with. And that was a ton of fun just by itself. It's kind of like a Christmas village, but then afterwards you get to roll tanks through it and blow it up. So that's fun.
Like, I mean, if you think about like a model railroad.
Yeah, exactly.
Just having a model railroad on a piece of 4x8 or
did you see the news that just came out? Well, that didn't just come out. It came out a couple of weeks ago about Rod Stewart.
No,
he's evidently a huge model train guy.
And
he just recently showed off his humongous, like it looks like a movie like miniature like set for like I don't know if it's maybe like 40s New York or something. It's just amazing. It's not just like, here's a rolling hill and some stuff. It's astounding looking work. I don't know if he's been doing it or if he's been paying somebody because he's a super rich guy.
Yeah.
But like think about like that's cool. You can make trains go around it and stuff. But what if you just had a whole bunch of like soldiers and stuff and whatever and robots and aliens and all kinds of crap like that? That's what really makes it go to the next level, I think. So yeah, having good terrain, having a good board, having stuff kind of match, I think it keeps you immersed. Immersion in miniatures is a big deal. I mean, immersion is kind of the deal in a lot of these things, like the music and the mood lighting and stuff like that. That just includes and brings in more immersion. Let me see. Fancy tokens. Those are sort of nice. They're not as important, I think.
But sometimes the measuring pieces and stuff, especially if they're like normally like come with like cardboard templates or anything like that, having that kind of the acrylic can kind of just feel nicer, and you can also see through it sometimes.
I mean, I when I play Kill Team has a potential of 6 different tokens that you might put next to a unit, and so this company called, it's either Mr. Laser or MR Laser, I'm not sure, but they're on Etsy, I think, and they made 6-sided dice. And they put each of those 6 symbols onto the different sides of the die, so instead of having to put down this kind of bigger sort of flat cardboard thing that says this guy has already fired or this guy is waiting to shoot or whatever, you can just put down a little die next to it, which takes up a little bit less space. It's easier to grip and pick up and all that kind of stuff. And it's got the symbol because there's 6 different symbol possibilities, so they put them on the 6 different sides of the die, and it works great. Those types of little things can really help make the game feel a little bit more interesting. And yeah, I mean, anytime you have to like fumble for a token and you're trying to get it off the table, it's just a pain in the butt. So, and then lastly, like mood music, even still in miniatures, I really think mood music can work quite well. I was over at a guy's place one time. A bunch of us were over there playing. Basically, two guys were getting together to do a grudge match that had been like a year in the making.
Okay.
And so they were going to play this huge, giant battle. And then a bunch of us were going to play like some kill team on a different table and just hang around and talk stupid and whatnot like you do at these kind of functions. But they went into, I think it was Spotify, and found like a grimdark playlist. And then it just played all this music that just fit in perfectly with like Warhammer 40,000.
Interesting.
So yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing to do. Like that's, there are times when I think about Spotify, and if you're listening on Spotify, hello, how you doing? Actually, it turns out it's like right now it's like our second, like basically it's Apple Podcasts. When people are listening to the audio version as opposed to say YouTube, it's Apple Podcasts, and in second place right now is Spotify.
Wow.
Yeah. So my point is though is that I would make Spotify playlists and stuff like that, like for games. I think that'd be kind of a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Is like so that you could just go like, you know, the keyword like Dungeons and Dragons, and I mean I bet you there's actually a whole bunch of them out there already. Yeah. If there's already a Grimdark one for 40K, I'll bet you there's a bunch of them.
Probably,
for that type of thing. So yeah, another good place actually to get some of that kind of mood music and things like that.
Or even like sound effects, like if you're playing a historical war.
If you're playing like a World War II thing.
Just the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, or
see, that's the
without the voices.
Well, right, but I just wonder. Like, I think if I turned on like a Band of Brothers in the background, if we were trying to play like Bolt Action or something like that, I think I would just stop and just watch the.
Right,
I'm not good at being able to multitask.
Yeah.
If there's something on TV, video, something, I have a tendency to sort of focus on it. So I don't know that would work for me, but your mileage may vary.
Yeah.
What about collectible card games?
Ooh, game mats.
Yeah, those are cool. I mean, so those game mats, again, made of neoprene generally. I want to say 16 by 24.
Well, it depends on the game.
Yeah, I guess that's true. That's a good point. But normally they're like a rectangle.
Almost like a placemat size.
Kind of, yeah. And you put it in front of you so that your cards don't get Cheetos on them and stuff like that from the game shop or whatever. It's like to protect the cards. And it also gives you a bit of a boundary. This is where my stuff
right,
goes.
And like Keyforge, the ones for Keyforge, they kind of have like the sections for like where your deck goes.
True, yeah. Sometimes they do have like actual layout areas, but for like most, when I see people at like the game shops and stuff like that playing Magic, if they've got a mat, it usually doesn't have.
Yeah, it's usually just one design.
And it's a lot of times a design that you like, you know, or whatever, something like that. I don't know what's going on.
I was looking for your cat.
I don't have a cat.
Don't you have the cat mat?
Oh, yeah. No, somewhere there is a game mat here with
Yeah.
a cat on it. That's a good point. Yeah. Which is funny because I basically just don't play. Like I have like, well, other than Keyforge, I really don't play. I think I've got a commander deck somewhere, but that's about it. But yeah, so those types of things I think can work well. I do see people that use fancy like counters and life tokens to keep track of like
the. Like there's rings and everything now.
Yeah,
rings and bracelets.
There's there's like a ring you have in your finger and it's got like 20 numbers on it, and you sort of turn it like as you add and take. But then like a lot of times I know that at least in certain types of Magic, you end up going above 20. Like you start leeching, you know, like health from other players, and
so
then
maybe
you
use
go up higher.
2 of them.
Potentially, I don't know. But there's a lot of. I mean, most gamers that I know that play Magic, they generally are walking around with some sort of game mat, and they do generally have like maybe at the very least some special dice that they use.
Yeah, I used to use a lot of glass beads for counters. Like
that's true too. Also in Magic, there's what are they called? Markers or tokens? I think they're called tokens, but it will be like goblins or soldiers or whatever.
I had them for like spores and stuff like that.
Right, so you have to kind of hold on to those, and you could just use whatever. You could just use a die and say, I've added 5 more guys onto this, but there's also fancy cards with with cool art and stuff like that and everything. So that can be a thing. And I don't know, music, I suppose, you know, mood music, if you're playing a game that's more fantasy like Magic, I could see that being something, right?
Or like 'cause maybe like something from like Star Wars or something like that, like a dueling kind of.
Yeah. Oh no, that's a
like
good
that.
idea.
Like I'm thinking like Phantom Menace, that kind of background music.
Yeah. I think that mood music helps in pretty much most kind of games, doesn't it? I mean, to some
probably.
degree. I mean, that's why video games almost always have a soundtrack, right?
Usually,
Yeah.
Most movies.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point as well. Yeah, I think that's a big takeaway from this is that maybe if you're feeling that your role playing games, your board gaming sessions, your miniature sessions, things like that, if they're seeming kind of a little, you're stuck in a rut or dull, maybe start trying to come up with a cool playlist.
Well, I think really when you think about it, we're really talking about your getting the games into other senses. So
right, exactly.
Your hearing, tactile.
Yep. That's why you want to have maybe coins instead of just like regular cardboard tokens.
You could also do eating, like snacks. Like you could have like themed snacks.
I don't know that gamers ever snack. I don't think that doesn't sound reasonable.
Well, but they might start now.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. We could have started something here on the podcast and saying that, you know what gamers should do?
Yeah.
Snacks. That's a good idea.
Like ginger meeples.
Like ginger meat. Oh, I was thinking.
Instead of ginger men, ginger meeples.
Right. I was thinking like red-haired meeples is what you were talking about. But no, I see like gingerbread men. Gingerbread meeples is what.
Right, or orc jello for the keto diet. Is orc? I don't know if jello is keto friendly.
I don't know if I have no idea. I'm not keto friendly, so I don't know. I mean, I'm not against them. I just don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you might need to eat. That's also something. Thing. But yeah, you're right. I think that adding to the senses besides just the imagination when you're trying to figure out, to play a game, it helps the immersion. I think immersion is sort of the key in this situation.
Scented candles now that I think about like that smell like.
Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot completely about those. At Gen Con this year, there was a company that was selling scented candles that smelled like burning wood, like tavern, like dungeon, like they had a bunch of weird, crazy smells, and I think that somebody I know bought one. I don't know if it was a candle or if it was just like a kind of waxy potpourri thing you would just open and not have to burn. But yeah, no, there's definitely that possibility that could be kind of cool too. Huh. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So what do you folks think? Like, what do you like to do when you are trying to raise the amount of immersion in your games?
Yeah,
make the
I'd
game
love to
seem
hear
a
some
little
ideas
bit
here.
more. Yeah, exactly. So, leave something in the comments if you're watching this on YouTube, or shoot us an email. You might win a free T-shirt if we use your question or whatever, or your comment or whatever.
Facebooks and the Twitters. And
yeah, we're on all those different things. We're not on TikTok.
He says now.
Good point. Yeah, but we should be probably, I suppose. So I think that's pretty much it for this episode.
I think so.
Yeah, so try to raise the immersion in your gaming, using maybe hopefully some of our tips, and then let us know how it works out. Thanks again for listening to this episode of the GameFor Podcast. If you've got questions or comments, as I've been saying, and you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment below. If you're listening via your favorite podcast player, like I said, lately we've been good on iTunes and Spotify and Apple, all kinds of places. Overcast, yeah, all kinds of places. So if you're listening to your favorite podcast player, or you just aren't into the whole YouTube comment section thing, then you can feel free to reach out to us via email at podcast@iamgamefor.com. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, potentially TikTok. And lastly, to find out more about the GameFor platform designed to connect tabletop gamers, please check out our website at www.iamgamefor.com. That is www.iamgamefor.com. Thanks.
Thank you.